What's up, guys? Welcome back to an intelligent discussion. I'm your host, Ben McElroy. Today I'm joined by Will and Jared. Will's got our topic for us, so why don't you kick it off, Will?
Thanks, Ben. So the other day I was just having a thought. All of us are somewhat interested in history, if I'm not mistaken. It's something that Ben and I have connected with multiple times over the many years, and it's something that Jared and I have had many discussions on. However, it's something that we're both individually passionate about, and it's a personal interest. And while it can be a passion of yours, I do not think at all that it can be a hobby, and it's something that cannot bring strangers together.
Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of history out there, a lot of different kinds of history, a lot of different ways to interpret history. But the one thing that kind of supports my opinion on this is that history, or rather sources, can be interpreted in different ways. Like, yes, there is fact, but there's also the kind of history that you would have where, like, if you were to meet somebody and you just get to talking with them, you'd be like, oh yeah, like, I'm kind of a history nerd, I read a lot of history, and they'll be like, oh dude, I love history. History's so cool. And then you'll ask them one question and they won't really be able to answer it. And you can kind of take that simple interaction and extrapolate it to basically anybody who says that they're interested in history or is interested in history, because one person's always going to know more than the other. And then in the end, that conversation is going to become an unsolicited teaching moment where you both try and find something that you both know an equal amount on, which is basically impossible. Or you find out real quick that you're both interested in very different kinds of history. Like, Ben could be really interested in, the military and political history of 20th century Europe, but Jared could be really into, like 16th century social history or economic history. And those are two very different writing styles, very different focuses. And yeah, you guys both like history, but that's pretty much where the similarities end, and it's all differences from there on out.
Okay. So the idea itself makes sense to me. I'm not sure I understand the stance, and the example that I'll give is I really like history, but I recognize that both you and Justin know more about history as a concept than I do. I may have you guys beaten on like niche areas of World War II or ancient Romans or Mongols from the last episode, but you guys, as a broader concept and broader learning, have much more experience than I do. I don't believe that diminishes from our discourse or diminishes the enthusiasm we both bring to it. I think even if it devolves into a momentary teaching moment for the other person, like it's an attitude of enthusiasm and excitement, not superiority. Like I never flex on you guys just because I know some facts.
Yeah, I do know. Jared, you got anything?
No, I agree and I disagree in a couple of different situations. So, as friends, we have this good ability to come together and talk about a lot of these things. So, I always want to listen to you guys because it's always a good time to learn. You all individually have certain things to where it surprises me every time I talk to you about history because there's a lot of things that I don't know. And I'm probably the least versed. So, I will listen to things all the time. Like Dan Carlin's podcast right now, and talking about the Vikings. So that one's something that I listen to when I go to the gym. But the way we take it in, I think is a big differentiation in how we can talk about these things because I think Will, the way you think about history and the way that Ben thinks about history, it's going to be different. So you're thinking about it as a teaching moment. I wouldn't say it's a teaching moment. I would just say it's something that it's something that I want to listen to and not to be taught on, but I just I like to be informed. So yeah. I think that line is a little bit different with how everybody views it, but yeah, I'm probably the least versed in history, so I understand it, and I love listening to you guys talk about it. I love listening to the podcast and seeing documentaries on Netflix and things like that. But everybody's different. Everybody's going to be different with this. Like sports is my thing. Like I'll talk about soccer for hours because that's the history that I like because that's the thing that I always play. But not everybody likes soccer. And like for you, well, you played rugby, but the history of rugby, I don't know if you know much about that, but it's just something that you probably enjoyed. So I think that's my stance on it.
I'm really glad you said that, Jared, because I think it segues very well into what I was going to say, which is history as a concept, as taught in school, or as people pursue as a major in college, like what I was doing before I dropped out of college. What Will was, I believe, a history major. We love history, and there's certain people that do like history, and then there's people that are indifferent about it, and then there's people that are like, ugh, it's so boring, it's so everything's already happened, and it's just lame. Like the people fall into these categories as you go through the public school system, and it's so funny to me that like the same people that tell me like they hate history or yeah, that was pretty spooky.
Mm.
They hate history or it's boring. Love football, love soccer. They love sports, and they don't mind spending hours and hours watching compilations of the 10 greatest running backs of human history or whatnot. But that's
Mhm.
history. It's just put into a context and into a story that engages the audience, right? Like how many people, if you toured a football stadium, would be like, history, yeah. But if you told, if you ask them like a vote or like a quiz about, hey,
Depends if
who's the
that
best
stadium
player
was
from
the
this company?
Coliseum.
Correct. The analogy's there, but history is so much more than just like old guys sitting around a university going, "This is what happened." Like it's this fluid thing, but it's like oobleck. It's fluid, but it's also like firm, right? It's a non-Newtonian fluid. There we go. Had to take a second, but like history shouldn't be this amorphous, ever-changing concept. It has to have rigidized facts. Like hey, Rome was an empire that never fell, but
Was the
it's still
Vatican
open
Rome
to
then?
was an empire.
interpretation.
Half the time.
Half of it didn't fall.
No, it turned into the Vatican. So I think
No.
that's where what
No.
happened. Yeah.
Wrong answer. Right,
No, nobody liked that.
Yeah, wrong. No, but Ben is right. Like like what history is there's facts. Like World War II happened. Like that is a fact that nobody can deny. But
Well,
what
they can
isn't
deny
a
other things
fact
about World War
is,
II.
yeah, they could. But like what isn't a fact is like what it all meant. Why it happened, the why in history, and the impact of history, and just kind of what it all meant. That's not fact at all. That is, those are educated opinions. That's why historians keep publishing books on the same subject over and over again, is because those historians come from different time periods and different days where we have a different interpretation of the same events that happened than people 50 years ago. Perfect example would be something that Dan Carlin did talk about. Caesar, when he was conquering Gaul, back when Rome was a republic, he wrote a journal on it, and its modern translation is the Gallic War. Now, that book was originally written in Latin, and Caesar wrote it because it was designed to be consumed by the public at Rome to boost his public opinion. And that book keeps getting translated over and over and over again, probably about every 10 years or so, because the way that we think now in the 2020s is way different than the way we thought in the 1950s. So that one word that Caesar uses in this one sentence to describe what he's doing, that word is going to change as it comes out of the translation every few years or so. Like in 1950, a translation said that Gaul had been tranquilized. And then in a new translation that came out probably 10 years ago, it said Gaul had been pacified. And those are two very different words. That's another thing. Like we could also argue about whether or not that was a genocide.
Mm-hmm.
But like the fact is that Caesar conquered Gaul. But what isn't a fact is, why he did it, what it meant.
Yeah. Well,
so it's like, yeah, like you could agree. You could be like, yeah, like Caesar conquered Gaul. Yeah, Ben and I, Jared, we all agree on that. But then why? Like that's something that we could have a whole podcast episode in and of itself. And unless you're intimate with the person that you're talking about, that conversation is going to get inappropriate very quickly.
Okay. Speaking about inappropriate, very quickly, I was digging around for a book in my bookshelf here, and I found it. And I'm really bummed that it doesn't have the white cover on it that it comes with. But the book is called "The Catholic Church and Nazi Germany." Yeah, this is a pretty spooky book, and
Did you already
that
read
was
it?
part of the reason I gave the thumbs down to
Wow.
the Vatican.
Okay. You already read it?
If you couldn't tell,
I've
Ben's
read
team
like the
got it.
first 4 chapters of it, but I've also read like a synopsis of it. It's pretty academic. This guy is he's a journalist who became a professor, and he wrote this I think in the 1960s after going and interviewing thousands of both Nazis and survivors in Germany and around Europe after World War II. And this is like firsthand accounts and like facts. And it's pretty crazy, bro. Yeah. At the end of World War II, the Catholic Church was handing out passports and Red Cross visas to high-ranking Nazi war criminals. It's pretty
For those of you
bad.
who don't know, Ben is also a little Jewish.
I am a little Jewish. Yes, correct. But even if I wasn't Jewish, that's still a bad look.
Yeah.
Different question, but have you seen the stuff about the synagogues in New York City with all those tunnels?
Bro, have you seen the memes about the synagogue?
Yes.
Yes. Crazy. I don't know if anything's come of that yet, but definitely dubious and weird that like my people are just chilling in the tunnels getting around New York City.
I talked to somebody at work about that, and she was like, "Oh, the cartels," and I'm like, "No, like the
No.
Jewish." I'm like, "No, like the Jewish church."
Not the
And she's like,
cartels, the Jews.
Yeah. So we're also in Arizona, so everyone thinks about like the cartels bringing in drugs across the border, which there is a vast network of tunnels here going to and from Mexico and Arizona and other parts of California too.
What? Tunnel
Yeah.
networks to Mexico? What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
People are worth more than cocaine now. So, but yeah, I thought it was super interesting, and it leads to a very tinfoil hatty conversation about why they need a tunnel network under New York City. If you look at any of the churches and their big scandals, the Catholic Church and all those little kids that they were, pedophiling. So that's always something that comes to mind when I think about things like that. But I'm not a part of that religion. I'm not in New York City. So, but it's definitely a tinfoil hatty situation. It's like, what are you guys doing down there? What are you doing? Have you heard about this,
Yeah.
Will? Have you seen it online?
I saw a headline and scrolled right past it.
I'll send you some memes, bro. They're incredible.
Because, like you, I am also not in New York City, nor am I Catholic or Jewish. So it was kind of irrelevant. A little funny. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. The New York underworld.
Indeed.
I mean, there are layers to cities. I mean, I think Chicago, you can look at it and there's like you can just look at the top of the city, but there's roads and things like that layered underneath where Lower Wacker Drive. That's where they filmed The Dark Knight, and when the Joker's in in that
The
big
moving van?
yeah, he's in that big rig shooting RPGs out at the commissioner when he's being transported. So that was shot in Lower Wacker Drive, but that is under the city and it's nowhere found. But there's also places to get to and from that people have to be let through. So
Oh,
and then
yeah.
you want to go a layer deeper, and there's people just committing whatever crimes down there too. So yeah.
Speaking of going a layer deeper, Ben, can you take us deeper into your carnivore diet?
Yeah, I would love to. So, in case you guys didn't know, and I apologize for if you guys are watching the video, my eyes keep moving. I'm not using my laptop to record this, but they're on my laptop, so. But yeah, so in case you guys didn't know, I've been doing the carnivore diet since January 1st. Today is January 13th as of date of recording. So I'm 13 days in on what's called strict carnivore. And essentially the diet is I can eat meat and animal products that contain no carbohydrates. So pretty much we're talking eggs right now. So since the first, I've had nothing but meat and eggs. And yeah, so far I'm down almost 11 pounds, 10 pounds probably. I feel great. But I definitely have some of the most intense carbohydrate cravings I've ever had in my life. I've never like fantasized about food before, but I've definitely been thinking a lot about like tiramisu lately has been my like for whatever reason
Oh,
obsession.
that sounds really nice.
Oh dude. And man, I'll tell you, one time after a workout, I was in the sauna and I just started salivating thinking about drinking a Guinness. And I just like I almost got out of the sauna and went and bought some Guinness. Like it was bad. The they're really only present when I'm hungry and I smell something that like I can't have. But as far as diet, it's consisted primarily of ground beef. I've had multiple steaks this month so far and a lot of eggs. Sometimes I'll eat 7 to 10 eggs a day. Every once in a while I'll eat bacon. I've had a little bit of chicken. I've had a little bit of fish, but primarily it's beef.
How have your poops been?
Hell yeah.
Heard that like your shits are just wild.
Yeah. So
I'm not
for the first
surprised
few
you're
days,
pooping at all.
well, interesting questions, both. I'll tackle Jared's first. So in case you guys were really curious about my stool, the first few days it was fine. Right around day 6, the gurgles started pretty good, and my stomach was just making lots of weird noises. And I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't quite ready for the tsunami of the next couple days. But now, after about day 9, it's normalized significantly, and I'm definitely using the restroom less in that sense. Like I'm not having to poop nearly as often as I used to, which, I guess if my body's going to be consuming and digesting effectively most of what I'm eating, like that makes sense. The only thing I'm drinking right now other than water is coffee. And I'm only drinking coffee with essentially collagen, which is, ground up beef bones, basically. And butter. I put butter in my coffee. And so on this diet, a lot of people that do carnivore or carnivore adjacent diets go into ketosis, which is when your body metabolizes all available carbohydrates and then realizes that there's none left, and it starts to metabolize fat for energy as opposed to carbs. And that's, the technical term is ketosis. And so now, primarily, my body functions on fat, which is cool, but kind of weird that like I'm.
Yeah, no kidding. That's cool.
Cool. I have no idea what just happened, by the way. That was kind of crazy.
I don't know how that happened either.
But yeah, no, it's been interesting. It's been fun. My energy levels throughout the day are incredible. They're all basically 100% consistent from, when I splash water on my face in the morning to wake up until whenever I go to bed, which sometimes is like 2 or 3 in the morning just because I have so much energy I can't fall asleep. But I do miss candy and just being able to eat bread.
Mm-hmm. Like a good loaf of bread, like a fresh loaf from the store. Just like tear it off. Yeah, I fucking love
Jared,
bread.
Please.
Yeah. I've always liked carbs. I eat pasta all the time. I also eat a lot of meat too. Like my diet is very, like it's very strict. It's protein shake in the morning, 2 bananas, peanut butter, milk. For lunch, it's usually like a rice and chicken or pasta, and then dinner is always like chicken, steak, and vegetables. So if you eliminate carbs, I know that like there's a certain sense of brain fog of what I've heard.
100%.
So like people talk about how you can be active in a situation, but then like it's really easy to kind of just like nod off. So
yeah,
have you experienced that?
Also I didn't experience the brain fog as bad as I thought I would. What really kicked my butt was the keto flu is the common term, but essentially just not having those carbs in your body doesn't really it's not normal for your body to go into ketosis. unless you're like used to that and you've done it before. And so this is the first time in my entire life that I've ever gone into this. And so my body, like, 25 years of eating protein and carbs for energy, and now it's trying to make the transition to fat. Definitely took a longer experience than I wanted. And it also, basically 2 days I kind of felt like miserable. And one day it was so bad I just kind of climbed into bed and like kind of like moaned and groaned for a little while before I went to bed at like 8:30. By the way, like I just got in bed and I just felt like I had the flu, honestly. But yeah, it's interesting to me that now that I'm removed from carbs significantly. Again, I know I was just talking about the cravings, but like not acting on those cravings has been really empowering, because I didn't realize how often I would just go into the kitchen and like eat something or grab something or just open my pantry and like look at candy. Like now I'm eating once or twice a day, and it's a lot different for sure.
I know myself, and then one of our other friends, Austin, we did a 24-hour fast. I think, Will, you continued this aspect of only eating like at one major time of your day, but we would text about just how we felt and about the cravings of food, and it was so hard. I did it for one day. Will did it for much longer than me, but for one day, I remember like sitting at home just watching TV. And I remember I got home from work and I'm like doing my routine of like, getting myself ready, planning out my night. And I go into my freezer and there's an ice cream sandwich. And it took every part of me not to just destroy this ice cream sandwich. And the next day when I was like, I'm just going to eat regularly again, and I'm going to like just take the 24 hours and just be like, all right, I did it. The first thing I ate was the ice cream sandwich. Yeah. But
awesome.
Will, talk about your experience with it too.
Yeah, so I practiced intermittent fasting for a period of 3 days. So basically in 72 hours, I ate 3 meals. And I would intake calories for 1 hour out of the day. And then for every other hour, it was water, tea, or black coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And, like the first day, it was pretty much fine. I didn't really have any major struggles, but I definitely would have to remind myself, be like, oh, I could go for a snack right now. And then I tell myself, oh, no, I can't. I'm doing this intermittent fasting thing. And that's something that, I haven't really dealt with before. And then I would get to the 22 and a half hour mark, and I'm at work and I'm only eating on my lunch break because I have like exactly 1 hour, but a little less actually, to eat this food. And I'd be watching the clock and just be like, oh my God, dude, please just let that hand strike 12 already. And then I go to the lunchroom and I would have this spread. Like I would sit at a 6-person table by myself and I would spread out all the food that I brought to work. And it would be like, it was probably 1.5 pounds of quinoa, 5 or 6 chicken thighs, can of cashews, milk with protein, and pork chops. And then I would just sit there and I would continue to just start eating, and I wouldn't stop for that entire hour, to the point where like some people started talking about it at work about just how much I was able to consume. And then that hour would be over, and I would wait another 23 hours until that time of the day tomorrow to eat again. And I did that for 3 straight days. And you got to a point where you would be able to feel the calorie deficit that your body was burning. And it also taught me the big difference between cravings and hunger. Because when you're like craving, like Ben says, like, oh, like if I could go for some bread, or oh, some candy sounds good, or even just something for my mouth to do, like just whether it's just chewing gum or something, that's way different than actually being hungry. Because when you're hungry and you've been hungry for like 2 days, 1 meal in 46 hours, like people in this country don't do that unless they have no other choice. Usually, like that only happens if you're food insecure. So putting yourself in that situation, it did teach me the fact of like snacking, like throughout the day, how much I did that. But it also taught me just how much food I'm able to put down in 60 minutes when I'm actually hungry, And yes, I did lose weight. And then as soon as I went off the diet, as soon as I stopped fasting, I gained it all back in like a day. And then it was just kind of like, all right, well, we did that.
Yeah, I'll hop in on the intermittent fasting really quick. I've done intermittent fasting on and off for a number of years. I didn't do it quite the way that you were doing it, Will. Typically, intermittent fasting is, well, and technically yours qualified, but um, you know, whenever you eat dinner at night is typically when people start their intermittent fast, and they'll go through the night and into the next day. And the golden window is somewhere between 11 and 2 p.m. to fast until then. And that's when, depending on what you ate and how much you ate, your body's going to use up all of the immediately available nutrients and energy from the food you last consumed, and basically notch up your metabolism and start to metabolize stored cells, typically fat or stored carbs, for energy. And that's when you would typically want to break your fast, and typically do it with like something high protein, so that it's going to digest the protein, but it's still going to prioritize the stuff that's stored as carbs and fat in your body. It's pretty common to do that for like 14, 16 hours, especially if you eat at like 5 p.m. and don't eat again until like, noon or 2 p.m. But, there's huge health benefits to doing that, by the way. Like, that's a very well-established scientific fact. A lot of people could and should be doing that. In regards to fasting, in the sense where you're not eating anything, I've done a 48-hour fast. And that was a pretty cool experience, honestly. I really enjoyed it. You guys both did 24 hours, you said?
Yeah, 24.
Yep.
Yeah.
48 hours was pretty interesting for me. I was a teenager. I was in high school at the time. But I don't remember having any issue with the first day. But that's just because I was, a teenager, cracked out on ADHD meds that like suppress your hunger needs anyway. So, I wasn't too worried about it. But I was also doing like a volunteer mission trip, and so I was busy all day. I wasn't sitting at home like smelling people cooking or doing things. Like I was working and helping people and doing tasks until very late at night. And I found that just drinking water made it pretty easy. And it really wasn't even until about lunchtime the next day, so almost 36 hours, that I really started to like want food. But if you just drank enough water, like you could pretty easily suppress those hunger desires.
Can't be hungry if you're full of water.
Well, yeah, pretty much. And so that's the longest I've ever done it. I did a 48-hour fast, and we broke it with, this is a Midwest special, but we had Avanti's catering gondolas, spaghetti, and their bread, and we just went wild. That was awesome. I'm hopeful to do a 3-day fast sometime in the first quarter of 2024. So maybe I'll do it after I'm done with the carnivore diet. Maybe I'll wait until February or March are past, but that's kind of on my docket to do, both from a health benefit perspective. Hey, I would love some company. But from a health perspective, like there's significant benefits to doing like a 72-hour fast. But there's also the mental fortitude that you build with that, and also kind of cleaning out the system a little bit. So I'm excited for it.
Are you still going to work out if you do a 3-day fast? I feel like that would make everything even more amplified with your craving of food.
Yeah, I'll definitely work out the first day, but by the second day we'll see, and definitely not on the third day. Even though I'll be drinking probably in excess of 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of water a day. He says having drank 16 ounces worth of water.
When I would do my intermittent fasting, I would go running before work, which is probably about like 12 to 14 hours since my last meal. Mm-hmm. And you just have no energy. Like your body's basically running on fumes. And then when you exert yourself and, try and get your heart rate up, well, your heart rate's going to spike pretty easily. But, when you try and get a sweat going on, like you're not going to, you won't be setting any PRs. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
correct.
Like, yeah, it's also the complete opposite problem that I had a few days ago, where like I ate and didn't wait long enough to go running, and I had a stomach full of food jostling around as I went running down the pavement. And I'm like, oh, this fucking sucks.
Yep.
So it's, yeah, you can. I probably will run if I can. Like if I'm not feeling good, or like I start feeling lightheaded, or like I'm going to pass out or something, it's not going to happen. But I'll try.
Yeah.
I think the worst
Interesting.
time ever with running and having something to like eat or drink. I had a milkshake before a soccer game, and milk does not suit you well when you're moving. it, I learned at a young age that like what Will said, wait before you do crazy activities because it's gonna really bite you in the ass. Like I
Hmm.
stood around on the field for 90 minutes, and I'm just like, yeah, not today, coach, not today. No,
This is
3 days
not
is
going to
going to
be
be
our
a long
best
time.
performance. Yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. No, 3 days seems like a long time. Um, there was a YouTube video that I watched about a guy that did a 3 day fast, and he worked out and talked about his experience with working out. And the first 2 days, he was like, I can do it, but I know I'm not 100%. And the third day, he was like, I'm going to damn near pass out if I do anything else because it, your body is just done. And so, good for you guys if you do it. I'll be over here cheering you on. I'll be your cheerleader, all right?
You're not going to do it with us, Jared?
No.
Come on, intentionally starve yourself with us. But it's also noted that
No.
Ben and I are going to be doing different exercising. Like I'm primarily going to be doing like stamina cardio workouts, and then Ben's probably going to be like in the weight room doing strength training and muscle
Mhm.
development.
Yeah, I'd be
Which
on
one?
your side, Will. I'd be on the cardio side. So it'd be interesting to see how you guys compare it afterwards. You guys talk about, you know, Will, you go for a run in, like, twice. Ben, you go to the gym twice and see how you guys felt both times.
Yeah.
That'll be a cool social experiment to see what happens afterwards.
Do you guys know your resting heart rate?
It was 66 last I checked.
Mine's somewhere in the 50s, like the high 50s, I think. So,
Yeah, I think mine today is 57, but I've had
mm,
2 espressos today, so we're cooking with gas as far as caffeine is concerned. So interesting. Yeah, I don't do a ton of traditional cardio exercises. The most cardio intense thing I do nowadays is play squash, which, if you're not familiar with, it's similar enough to like tennis or racquetball, probably. But like my
Is
heart
there a
rate will
squash involved?
routinely no, but my heart rate will routinely get up to like 180, 190 sometimes while playing this game.
that's high.
It's
That's
very
really
high, but the
high.
whole game is it's explosive movement.
Mm,
And running. And we play, for anybody that's a squash purist, my friends and I play 1v1 on the doubles court with
you
the
want me on
single
rest,
courts
bro?
ball. What?
I
Yeah, I
said
mean,
one v
no, no
one,
thanks.
one v one me
I
on
didn't
rest,
grow up
bro.
with Call of Duty, so no thanks.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely it's definitely, I think, in the top three of most cardiovascular intense exercises or like sports. It's crazy. If you're playing somebody who's just as good as you are, if you're
Mm.
dominant, even by like a few percent difference, like it's not even close. It's crazy. So
So it's like you said it's on like a tennis court basically. So it's just short sprints and very explosive movements for
mhm.
how
Yeah.
long is usually a game or a match go?
So my games typically go somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes per game, and it's typically played to 11, but you have to have the serve in order to score points. And so, for instance, if I'm serving and my opponent wins the serve, he doesn't get a point, but now I have to win the serve and get a point to get a single point, if that makes sense. I think sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
called like rally scoring, but that can make it take forever if the serve, if whoever's serving just switches on and off.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Seems like fun. Would you ever play pickleball? I know that's a big thing down in
Yeah,
America.
I've never played pickleball. Pickleball is typically played on a squash court, but they put up the net.
Mm.
Um,
So
I've seen
squash
it.
and have a net?
No, it's very similar to racquetball if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Essentially, think about the back wall that you hit the ball into as the net, and every time the ball hits
Mm-hmm.
the net, it goes over, and it's the other opponent's got to hit it to the net, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle was really big into that back when he was in high school. We played it once or twice, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, you're just like you're trying to focus on the trajectory of how things are going to bounce, and it's like so
Yep.
complicated. So,
It's different if it's hot versus cold, how much you've been playing. Yep, it's crazy.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
much respect.
definitely, man. Definitely sounds like fun.
Yeah. I will also just say really quick that my athletic output on this diet has changed in an interesting way. Like, I'm not significantly weaker, on this diet, even though I haven't had any like carbs for almost 14 days. But I'm finding myself not able to sustain the same level of intensity, from set to set to set. Like typically I'll do 4 sets of an exercise in the gym, anywhere from 8 to 15 repetitions per set. Now I'm finding myself gassing out at 2 sets in, 3 sets in, and I'm not able to finish the 4th set to the same satisfaction. So a lot of the people that have done this diet longer than me are telling me that I'll get over that and I'll be able to be just as good. We'll see. I'm planning on making some changes to the diet starting tomorrow. So
I think they're right, because it's a different fuel source your body is trying to get this from. So, like how you said, you're not satisfied with your results now versus what you did before, but you're changing your fuel source in your body. So like it's basically changing. Oh, I'm a gas car now. Well, I'm going to run on water. It's like it's going to be that car's not going to be as powerful anymore if it runs on water. So
Jarod,
Ben, what is your goal with the carnivore diet?
Yeah. So I'm actually, in case you guys didn't know, I have a YouTube channel. I'll plug it in the description on this, especially if you're listening on Spotify. But I've been documenting this process, and I made a video about how to outline what success looks like for you on any diet, but with the carnivore diet being in mind. My goal for the carnivore diet was to get through 2 weeks of strict carnivore, which tomorrow I will have done. After that, my goal is to switch into basically the format of the diet that Dr. Paul Saladino has basically made famous, which is commonly referred to the primal diet. And that's what I'm going to switch over to. But my goal was to lose weight on this diet and to push myself to, do this diet. So that I didn't really have like a goal other than, hey, I want to do these 2 things on this diet, and I want to challenge myself not to give into my carb cravings. I want to challenge myself to experience that discomfort. And so far, we're making it, even though it's been really hard sometimes. I'm not going to lie. Guys, in case you don't know or you're not watching, randomly fireworks will go off in the background of my thing, so I'll have to see what that's all about. But yeah, definitely. The goal was to lose weight. I entered this journey at 194.7 pounds. I weighed myself today around noon after drinking a lot of water, and I was 187 pounds. So realistically, probably 185. And that's pretty crazy in now 13 days. So definitely, I've got whatever my obliques, my rib cage definitions back.
What's it looking
I don't
good
have a little extra
back?
little pouch back here, which the beard covers anyways. But
so that's why you have a beard.
Pro tip: if you have neck fat, grow a beard.
Correct, or get plastic surgery. Those are your options.
And if you have a jawline and no neck fat, keep it shaved.
Yes. For those who can't see, Will looks like handsome Squidward from SpongeBob.
He does. That's facts. I'm so glad you said that,
That's
Jared.
a compliment.
I tell him almost every day. It's the funniest fucking thing, man.
Yeah, handsome Squidward, Mr. Clean, Agent 47. I'm just gonna add these to my list of Halloween costumes because shaving my head really opened up the creativity closet for me in terms of dressing up on Halloween.
Agent 47, that one is probably the top one.
Oh, that one's gonna be perfect. That's gonna be perfect.
How long has it been that we've been recording this? 45 minutes?
42 minutes.
42
we
minutes.
Do not have to go to a full hour, by the way, gentlemen. I'd be more than okay to make this a short format.
This one would also probably be if you were to put this on YouTube,
like a 2-section.
It would end up at 3 separate videos because if we talked about 3 separate things and then you just have I don't know, it'd be a 90-second clip of the episodes that didn't make it or whatever.
Well, cool. Are you guys cool if I hit the outro real quick?
Do your thing, man. We're here for it.
As long as after you tell me what you've learned today.
What have I learned today?
Yeah,
today I learned that if you're going to make content on multiple digital platforms, the amount of software that you need to effectively do that on all platforms is actually shocking, because I am paying for like 9 different softwares right now, and it's about to be 10 because shockingly they don't communicate with each other or work together. So
What platforms and what softwares are you having to buy?
So what I'm probably going to end up doing is just subscribing to the Adobe,
Smart. Yes.
umbrella, because they have everything. But the sucky thing is that's like at least $350 a year to do, which isn't crazy in the grand scheme of things. But I'm using Riverside right now, which I'm sure I'm going to get a billion ads for on Instagram and YouTube now. I'm using different websites and softwares to allow me access to trademark music to be able to put into things that I upload to Instagram, TikTok, things like that. I'm using this Riverside. Forgetting something.
You're forgetting 7 things.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, a lot of them are going to fall into what I replace it with Adobe. Artistly is one of them. Oh, Artlist. Then the AI version. So definitely there's a lot of tools, and I've also been, being a Jew, true to my nature, and using iMovie to upload some of our stuff to the internet, so I can just like make easy cuts. But no hate.
iMovie's
But
good.
yeah.
I've used it before.
Mhm.
It's pretty solid.
I mean, it's all right. It's definitely simplified. It's user friendly. You could take someone who has no experience and get them to put out similar quality videos to what I've been putting out on YouTube. No problem. But definitely, if you want to make more layered videos, or overlay images on like wall, like I could have a video pop up or an image pop up over here and have it have text that moves. iMovie can't support that. Like you have to have specialized software layers, and then you need Canva. I'm using Canva and I'm paying for that. So Canva Pro is awesome, but it is a paid service. So definitely there's some software going on here. I'm still forgetting something. I don't know what it is, but I'm forgetting it.
I bet you paying for all those things like per month, because I guarantee each one's like a couple of bucks or like $10 a month or whatever else like that. So it's definitely more economical just to buy Adobe, like their whole package, and just use all their crap. So
I'm using Zoho, which is actually my company's internal CRM tool as well, but it has a platform and a method to basically monitor all of your social media platforms in one place and view analytics and pre-planned posts, the whole 9 yards.
pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Jared,
cool.
have you learned anything today?
What have I learned today? It's a good question. Well, that we're fucking amazing at video games and we never lose. That's what I learned today. Yeah.
I don't know. We had a couple of Gears of War matches that had me questioning what I was doing with my life.
The last one really was just not our game, but everything else still went our way. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
What'd you learn
learned
today,
is
Will?
that you can't. I learned that it is unrealistic to win consecutive video game matches for 7 hours straight.
Correct. Yep,
we won every
fine.
game, and then we're like, oh, we should probably play something else. And we're like, oh, let's do one more. Like, we're on a win streak.
No, you should have quit. You should have quit while you were ahead.
Yeah, as soon as we voiced, we're like, oh, dude, like, what's our win streak? 6 or 7? As soon as we said that, we fucking got our asses kicked the next game. It wasn't even fun. And they're like, it's just a one-off. We're going to keep going. Nope.
Yeah.
It was done.
Should have left.
The streak was over.
Should have quit.
Yeah. Quit when you're
streak was
ahead.
over.
Yep. All right. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you being here. Please, if there's anything that you would like us to see us talk about or discuss on the podcast, leave a comment on YouTube. There's some ways to do that on Spotify. We are on both platforms, so check us out. And we'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Give me something controversial to talk about.
Ooh.
I will do it.